On Larry King Now, I welcome acclaimed actor Bill Pullman. You still get excited about the job? You still love acting?
Oh, yeah. You know, inside a character, you're exploring things about yourself that you haven't worked out. You're letting kind of humanity flow through you, too. In a way, you're a vessel for other things. I remember when I first got offered the role, it was just there. They want you to consider playing the president in this movie. And I said, is it a comedy? Because I couldn't believe that I was presidential material. My son's an actor now, Larry. He's 24 years old. He's been in 4 movies and a TV show, and he's doing well, but we're in this movie together. It's unbelievable.
Plus,
being inclusive. And in these times, I think that's a hard concept. But she always said, you can always draw the circle a little bit wider. You know, you have our family, but we can always include one more.
it's all next on Larry King Now. Welcome to Larry King Now. Our special guest is Bill Pullman, one of Hollywood's finest. Bill is known for starring in timeless films like Spaceballs, The Accidental Tourist, Casper, and, of course, Independence Day. His newest role, alongside Jessica Biel in the drama series The Sinner, airing Wednesdays at 10 p.m. on the USA Network. It is already a runaway hit. How did this role come to you?
I was out of the blue. I got a letter inviting me to look at the parts by the writer.
It was a book, right?
Yeah. And Derek Simons. And he adapted the German novel for Jessica's company, and she developed it. But the part was of a detective who was somewhat of in a small town from upstate New York, and I'm from a small town in upstate New York. And I thought, they got my number.
And this is about a woman who goes nuts one day and kills people, right?
Well, it's kind of, she's one person. So she's the least likely person you would expect it in this small town, and they're on a public beach, and she has a 1-year-old child, and her husband's there, and then someone's playing their music very loudly, and the next blanket over, and switch gets hit, and she takes this knife she has and kills him, and then doesn't want to contest it. She said she's guilty, doesn't want a lawyer, send her away, and the small town is so traumatized by the event, they are up for that. But I, as a detective, have another idea. Something bothers me about it all, so I work to try to unpeel the onion.
What stood out about the part?
What is it good about the part? Yeah, I think it's, for me, he's a lot of different aspects of it. Somebody who is himself a little bit of a mystery to himself. And, I think a good noir, good stories like Chinatown or whatever, the detective is really looking for himself in a way.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
It was an immediate success. Were you surprised?
Yeah. I haven't done that much television, but I thought, there's a lot of product out there. There's a lot of stories about crime and everything else. What's going to distinguish us? We'll see. And it was a great success, and it's held for 3 weeks, and built an audience, which is rare, I'm told. So
what's going to come in season 2?
Yeah, that's a big mystery because it ends.
You don't know?
Don't know. Yeah, the whole thing.
How does it end, season 1?
Season 1 has a conclusion, where
it does.
Her case is kind of brought to a close, I guess, in a way you'd say. So it's a question of whether the next season would be Ambrose, my character, in another situation, another aspect. I think that's one idea that they're working on.
Did you read the book?
The writer asked me not to read it. He said, your part is kind of different, and that was the biggest invention, I think, for the series of The Sinner. And so he said, don't read it. So I have a copy of it, and I'm going to start reading it now that we're done shooting.
We always talk in roles about women aging. How about men as they get older? Are parts difficult to find?
Well, on this one, I had to sign a nudity clause, Larry.
A what?
A nudity clause.
Meaning?
Meaning at 63, I didn't expect I'd do any more of those, you know. That's where, when you get a job and you have to show some skin, you know, they are obligated to have a contract of how much skin and how much.
You have to show nudity in this?
There's some nudity in it. It's not total nudity, and it ends up being kind of benign, but, you know, they want you to sign up for it. And I thought, wow, the last one I did of these was a few decades ago. But, you know, talk about roles for men. I never imagined that there'd be something this interesting, you know, where he's a very complicated character with, you know, sexual relations with a couple different people, and it's very complicated, but and out there. But you know,
do you see scripts all the time?
Yeah, there's lots of different kinds of things coming up. I'm going to be doing 2 parts in November, October. One is a movie called Cheney with
about Dick Cheney.
Dick Cheney, yeah.
Who do you play?
I play Nelson Rockefeller. Did you ever meet?
Oh, I did.
Did you interview him?
I never interviewed him, but I met him at a convention.
Oh. Well, my father was a Rockefeller Republican. You know, remember that term?
Oh, yeah. They meet in a phone booth now. After the break, we'll visit Bill's next role in the Battle of the Sexes with Emma Stone and Steve Carell, and look back at his exceptional career. Don't click away. Our guest is Bill Pullman. He stars with Jessica Biel in the drama series The Sinner, Wednesdays, 10 p.m. on the USA Network, one of the big hits in cable TV. You still get excited about the job? You still love acting?
Oh, yeah, yeah.
What propels you? What keeps you going?
Well, I think there's some kind of, you know, when you're inside that bubble and you're actually, you know, inside a character, you're exploring things about yourself that you haven't worked out sometimes, you know, and I think there's a sense of you're letting kind of humanity flow through you, too. In a way, you're a vessel for other things if you make yourself available.
What was your break?
Well, you know, I think I had kind of bing 1-2 punch with the breaks. One was getting a part in Ruthless People, which was my first movie, and that with Danny DeVito and Bette Midler. And,
it was hysterical.
That was a small part, but it was memorable. And that was the second break was Mel Brooks saw it. And
Spaceballs.
Spaceballs, yeah.
How did you get that part? Because Mel is wild. I love him. I know him for years.
Yes, I know you guys go.
Did you like working with him?
Oh, yeah. You know,
he's wild.
He's wild, you know, creatively. I think he's like on a genius level. It's his own thing, how he puts it together. He's so bright. And he and Ann came to see me in a play. And I thought, looking back now, I realize how strange that is that a film director would come to see you in a play to think about casting you, you know. But, and then later I worked in Malice. I worked with Ann. I did scenes with her and that.
Wow.
So both.
Was it with Spaceballs a fun shoot?
Oh my gosh, yeah. It was big, you know. We had the first sequences out in the desert, you know, with the little people playing the dinks, you know, and oh my God, Mel riding around in a dune buggy to get to the set, you know. It's crazy.
Do you keep in touch with him?
I tried to. I wish I had. He's a very busy guy, but you know, he had the Masters of Cinema award, you know, and so. You know.
Just did a stand-up in Vegas 2 nights.
Really?
Win, yeah.
Did you see it?
No, but I saw it advertised. It was because Mel is. There's no one like him. Tell me about Independence Day. That was the biggest grossing movie, right?
Yeah, that was huge, huge hit, and as you know, because we
invaded my show.
We invaded your show. Yep, Jeff Goldblum and. The director, Roland Emmerich, and, you know, I'm so fond of...
You played 2 presidents. One on a television show, right?
Yes, yes.
That I was a guest on and interviewed you on the set.
That's right.
1600 Pennsylvania Avenue.
Very good. Yeah.
And then, of course, Independence Day.
Yeah.
How do you approach being president?
Well, I always, you know... think about, I remember when I first got offered the role, it was just they want you to consider playing the president in this movie. And I said, is it a comedy? Because I couldn't believe that I was presidential material. Talking with Roland about it, he said, it's really about how you triangulate with other people. That if there's another conversation in the room, those two people are always triangulating with the president. And you realize...
He's always there.
He's always there.
The elephant in the room.
That's right.
Independence Day was a roaring hit. Did you expect that?
No, that was an unexpected thing. I remember that year was it was in January. They were talking about the movies coming out that summer, and they listed it, and it was 20th of 20 movies they talked about. So it was the last movie on the list, barely made the list. And then they had a great ad campaign. July 2nd they came, July 3rd they attacked, July 4th the day we fought back, and that bumped it up, and so it became this thing that was highly anticipated. And then the whole publicity around the world with it was, quite confusing for people. A lot of them thought I was the President of the United States.
What do you think of the current President of the United States?
Well, these are a lot of, unusual times. I think we're really, in a crisis as a country. We're looking at divisions that have never looked at so deeply before, and they've never been driven so far apart, different sides. It's going to be a long conversation to come out of it.
What would your father think?
Yeah, I was kind of glad my father isn't alive to see it. I think it would have really discouraged him.
As a moderate Republican?
He was a moderate Republican, yeah. He was a Rockefeller
Where'd you grow up?
In western New York State, small town. He was a doctor. But he loved the Republican convention on TV. He was all, rah, rah, I love
Where in Western New York?
South of Rochester, Hornell, New York, which was a small town that's, it's mentioned in the last paragraph of The Last Tycoon, F. Scott Fitzgerald novel, where a character gets off the train because he wants to get lost.
What city?
In Hornell, New York.
Hornell.
Yeah, Hornell with an H. They fixed
Not Cornell.
Not Cornell, no. It's a big railroad hub where they fixed the steam engines. So.
When we return, who might Bill Pullman want to trade places with for a day? How about his funniest fan encounter? The answers to these questions and more in a game of If You Only Knew. We'll be right back with the great Bill Pullman. Back with Bill Pullman. The Sinner airs Wednesdays at 10 p.m. on the USA Network. You're set to star in The Battle of the Sexes, a movie about that famous tennis match between Billie Jean King and
Bobby Riggs.
Bobby Riggs. I interviewed both of them leading up to that, Emma Stone and Steve Carell, and you play who?
Jack Kramer. Were you familiar with Jack Kramer?
Of course, the great tennis player who was a writer, right?
Right.
He covered that match.
He was seeded #1, and then he became head of the U.S. Lawn Tennis Association, then a color commentator with Howard Cosell.
Howard Cosell.
Yeah.
Is someone playing Howard?
Howard is playing Howard. His appearances are done digitally.
No kidding.
Yes, it's phenomenal. I've seen some of the...
So you're in scenes with him?
I'm not in those scenes, no. But some of the other, some of the girls, women on the team, the tennis team, I have scenes with them.
As I remember, Jack did not like.
Billie Jean King and he were oil and water, and for Billie Jean, Jack was the male chauvinist pig, and they're big. Just recently. And Jack was, by all accounts, you read his obituary, the greatest guy in the world. But for some reason, those two, and the night before the big match, Billie Jean says, "I'm not going to play if Jack is the color commentator." So it's a good standoff.
Have you seen the film?
Yeah.
Good?
I really like it. I am so surprised that everybody, all the cast, is great moments. It's not a simplistic, empowerment movie or something.
Can Emma play tennis?
She does everything in this movie. I find it's a brave performance, because Billie Jean came out after that whole thing, but she was in the closet and wrestling with it, and the movie has all that in it, as well as the great tennis sequences.
Her husband's name was Larry.
Yes.
Billie Jean King, yes.
Yes, it was confusing because Bobby Riggs had a son named Larry. And my son plays that part. My son's an actor now, Larry. He's 24 years old. He's been in 4 movies and a TV show, and he's doing well, but we're in this movie together. It's unbelievable. We don't have scenes together, but and we're going to both go to the Toronto Film Festival for
I can't wait to see it.
Yeah.
We're going to play a game of If You Only Knew. The producers prepare these questions. I just throw them at you. Funniest fan encounter?
Funniest fan encounter? Well, I think the scariest, for me, if it's not, it was funny maybe later, but at some point. But I was doing appearance on the Kelly and Regis show, and they were down in Orlando, Florida in the hot of the summer. And they had this thing where you come down a gauntlet line of fans that are there cheering and everything, and then you walk up on this podium, and I'm shaking hands and blah, blah, blahing, and then all of a sudden this hand comes through, and it's got a glove with the fingers cut off. And it's a glove, a winter glove in the middle of the summer, and grabs my hand and won't let go. And I'm thinking, oh no, this is when I'm going to see a gun, or what's going to happen. And it was a guy and said, I love Newsies. And Newsies was the movie I did. It's a musical movie about the orphan boys who delivered newspapers at the turn of the century. And in the movie, they cut off all their fingers. And so this fan was so crazy that had the glove there. And I thought, oh, it's not an assassin, it's a fan.
Biggest risk you ever took?
Biggest risk I ever took? Well, I think when I was living in Montana, and I said, I got to go to New York City and try to be an actor. I did that.
Place we'd most likely find you on your day off?
Well, I love my orchard. I'm always,
You have an orchard?
I have an orchard, yeah.
In Hollywood?
In Hollywood, yeah. I've terraced up the hillsides, and, California is unbelievable for growing things.
If you could take one person, dead or alive, to lunch, who would it be?
Whoa, man. Well, I'm filled with Nelson Rockefeller now because I'm going to play him in this movie coming up. And I just met his son, Mark, who's in his 50s, and he told 3 hours talking about what he was like. He was quite a dynamo, and his vision of what it was to be a public servant was pretty impressive.
Stranded on a desert island, what 3 things do you bring with you?
Oh, man. I would probably... I bring a shovel because I like digging up plants and moving plants around so I can get my little orchard going, And I'd probably bring a copy of Donald Colross Piatti's book, Trees of the Eastern United States, which is just this great classic naturalist account.
Pullman, you're a Renaissance man. Best piece of advice you ever got?
Piece of advice I ever got? Well, my mother. She always said, she was big about being inclusive. And in these times, I think that's a hard concept. But she always said, you can always draw the circle a little bit wider. You have our family, but we can always include one more, As odd as they can be, we can always draw it wide.
Unheard of today.
Yeah.
Is there a role you regret turning down?
Oh, you never want to mention that, because somebody played that part, and you don't want to feel like, oh, I got it, and I turned.
Well, let me ask you this. Was it a hit?
Yes. It was a really great movie. I don't know if it was turning down or I couldn't do it because I had another job, but it was Fargo. I think that's one of the best movies ever made. And it was the part that Bill Macy played. And I think I had another, something else was there. But that is, one of those movies that will stand the test of time.
When you saw it, what did you think?
Yeah, I felt like I can't... regret. I think regrets are good when you have something that you did do and you regret it, better than what you didn't do, you know, so.
Someone you'd trade places with for a day?
I would trade places for a day. Usually somebody to learn. There's a great naturalist named Richard Campbell who works down in Florida at the Botanical Garden, and I'd love to trade places with him.
What's a superpower you wish you had?
A superpower? Oh my God! I guess levitation.
I'd like to be invisible.
Invisible, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's it.
In our final moments, Bill Pullman will be taking your questions from social media. His new show, The Sinner, a runaway hit, airs Wednesdays at 10 p.m. on the USA Network, and we'll be right back. Back with Bill Pullman, star of The Sinner. Some social media questions. Rita Stephens on the Larry King Now blog. What was it like to work with Mel Brooks? Were you intimidated by him at all?
Well, you know, I got the chance to think about this about a month or two ago. The New York Times asked me to do a piece, write a piece, and I wrote about my relationship with John Candy and in that movie, because he was, to me, a very influential guy. Yeah, you had a great sense of humor, so unique, gentle giant.
Canadian,
right, yeah. And Mel was working with him, and there was those times where I thought, oh my God, these guys are so funny, effortlessly funny. And I didn't come from comedy. John and Rick Moranis came from comedy, and Mel, you know, from the vaudeville. And,
person on earth.
Jeez, he just knew everything about, you know, he'd talk about, you know, when, like, what name of a color is funny? And he'd say purple. You know, just like everything he analyzed for what.
Oh, he was
genius.
Nancy Sands on the Larry King Now blog. Is there a chance we could see another Independence Day film?
Well, we did the sequel, and I died in it, so I don't know if I'm going to come back in it, but hopefully somebody else will.
Messy Berry on the Larry King Now blog. Did you get the chance to meet Jessica Biel's husband, Justin Timberlake? If so, was he as cool and funny in person as he seems?
Yes, yes.
He's a good guy.
He's a good guy, isn't he? I mean, it's really, that's a pretty tried and true assessment of Justin, because he's a good father, good husband, you know, he's living his life so creatively, you know, he's taking on a lot of
good actor, good singer.
Good actor, great actor, yeah.
Fifi and you on Twitter, do you plan to return to the theater?
Yeah, I get tempted, you know, and I did The Goat, Edward Albee new play that, you know, was a really high point in my life, in like 2000, and I've tried to do a play every 2 or 3 years after that.
It's the actor's medium, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah. You get to do your own editing, and
Albee's work must be great to do.
Oh, you know, I was lucky to do a series of his plays.
At Courier on the Larry King Now blog, do you ever have the privilege to work with or get to know Bill Paxton? If so, what was he like?
You know, that was pretty trauma.
The two of you. How did that happen that they were?
I think it's the plosives, BP, Bill Pullman, Bill Paxton. You know, that started us out.
About the same age?
About the same age.
Do you know him?
Yes, and we did a movie together, a Roger Corman movie called.
Really?
Yes.
A horror?
It was scary. Yeah, it was in that realm of like Jacob's Ladder and Altered States. You know, it was a mind trip thing, and it's called Brain Dead. And I have a picture of Bill and I that I have in my workshop in Montana. You know, and of us hugging, and I was in some kind of surgical thing. And I was in touch with him a lot, and his wife, and went up to visit him in Ojai.
Was he sick?
You know, I really hadn't been in touch with him for the last couple of years, and I think it was really sudden. Yeah, I think it was not expected.
Terrence Morgan on Facebook. What do you think is your most underrated role to date?
Oh, good questions you get on your site there. You know, I'm fond of the orphans, the weird ones that nobody else liked or anything, you know, and some of, you know, I did a movie called Zero Effect with Jake Kasdan, and that has its own following, strong following.
Zero Effect?
Zero Effect, yeah, with Ben Stiller, and it was a kind of modern day Sherlock Holmes, Watson story, and he was, I played the kind of Daryl Zero, this great private investigator who was addicted to amphetamines, and, you know, but it was great movie, and Jake is Larry's son, and I had met him on the sets of doing a couple of Larry's movies, and he wrote the part for me.
Jane Vesco on Facebook. Is there a historical figure you'd like to play on screen?
I just have done a couple. I did Ralph Yarborough. Somebody's not...
Senator Yarborough.
Senator Ray Yarborough.
Texas.
Woody Harrelson plays LBJ. This is coming out in November.
When's that coming out?
November. And...
they've been waiting for that a long... Rob Reiner.
Rob Reiner, yep.
Directed it.
Directed it.
I've been waiting for this forever.
Yes, they've held it in the can. I don't know. I think it's really good movie. And
Ralph Yarborough was the liberal left of Lyndon Johnson.
Yeah.
They clashed, and they were both there the day Kennedy.
Yes.
They were in the motorcade.
And we recreated that motorcade. And
you did?
Yes, with Jennifer Jason Leigh plays Lady Bird and Woody. And it was notorious that Kennedy, on the morning, his last morning, he had to arbitrate to get Ralph to get in the car with LBJ, because Ralph thought that LBJ was corrupt, you know.
Did you have to have a Southern accent?
No. Well, yes, I did. Yes, I did. I wished I was short. He was short.
Yeah.
I couldn't get over that, but I tried to do everything else, because there's some good YouTube stuff on him. So that he was someone I did play that I really admire, because he was a great environmentalist and so important for civil rights.
And finally, Mary Gailey on the Larry King Now blog. If not acting, what do you think you'd do?
Well, I think I'd probably be an orchardist, you know.
Back to the orchard. Thanks, Bill.
So good to talk to you, Larry.
Big thanks to my guest, Bill Pullman. Be sure to see The Sinner, airing Wednesdays at 10 Eastern on the USA Network. He'll also be starring in Battle of the Sexes, out September 22nd. You can always find me on Twitter at King's Things. I'll see you next time.